Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about posture-related lower back pain, in particular if you're an office worker. We tend to see a lot of hypo and hyper-lordotic postures which can be fixed by exercises. The big thing you got to focus on is where is your limitation. Is it that you've got a hypo-lordotic posture, so you're kind of tucked in like this a little bit? Or are you hyper, you've got your sort of bottom sticking out like this? Each of them will have individual exercises that work to help improve the performance and help reduce your pain. Today we're going to talk about 3 exercises for each of those. Okay, so with hypo-lordotic postures, you'll usually find that there's a bit of a tightness through the hamstring muscles, and also you'll find that the erector spinal muscle is a little bit weak. So what we want to do is we want to actually warm up the hamstrings before we start exercise. A really good way of warming up the hamstrings is through a dynamic warm-up. 2 of those exercises I'll show you now. One of them is just doing a little bit of a walk and tilting through our back as we walk through, warming up our hamstrings this way. You want to perform about 30 reps, so a lot of reps just to get yourself nice and warm. The other one you can do as well, imagine that you're sitting in a chair and we're going to be lengthening through our hamstrings. So extending as we go up and going down, almost like a bit of a twerk as you're doing it. So up and down. And we're trying to make our bottom the moving part and the rest of our body stays nice and stable. If you want to take it a bit further, you can come down a little bit lower and extend as you come up as well. A really good way to actually passively stretch after a workout is the hamstring stretch. A really good way of doing it is if you grab a towel, kind of fold it up a little bit, and we put it across our hamstring, across our foot. What we want to do is just lay right back, keeping ourselves nice and relaxed, and we're going to actually stretch right up to the top. You'll probably find if you've got really tight hamstrings that you won't be able to get it up to the 90 degrees. Stay wherever you can, feel a nice stretch, and you'll find that every 15 to 30 seconds it'll actually relax a little bit more, in which case you can go a little bit further. Try and make your stretches around about a minute so you can have a chance to extend through the hamstring a little bit more, at least 2 or 3 times. The next one we're going to talk about is hyper-lordotic posture, and that is when we've kind of got an excessive curve through our lumbar spine. You'll usually see it with people kind of walking with their bottom almost looking like it's standing out. So the reason for that, and a big reason for it, is actually hip flexor tightness. The hip flexor itself comes under here and actually connects to the lumbar spine on the transverse processes like this. If they're really tight, it's almost like an archer pulling a bow and arrow, and it'll actually make the curve more excessive. So you can imagine if the hip flexors are here and they're coming and connecting here, it'll almost pull you into a little bit more extension if you're really tight. So they're a really big one that we want to make sure we stretch and mobilise before exercise. A really good way of doing it is kind of like a modified hip flexor stretch, which you guys would have all seen growing up when you were doing sport. So you kind of stand back here, you tuck your leg in, and just imagine that your hip flexor is going to pull you into extension. So if you're extending through your lumbar spine like that, you're kind of defeating the purpose of stretching your hip flexor in the first place. So before you start, tuck your bottom underneath straight away. So tuck your bottom right down. You'll actually feel that your hip flexor goes really tight. And then from there, try and move forward. You'll find that you can't actually move too far until you feel a nice big stretch. So you're going to hold that one for about a minute, and then after that you can extend the stretch, and this band will just help put a bit more tension through your hip flexor as well. Another thing you might find that's a little bit weak with this excessive lordotic posture is abdominal weakness. So that's something that you can work on as well. If the erector spinae muscles here are really tight, that's kind of what pulls us into that hyper-lordotic posture. So we can do the opposite and start strengthening our abdominals to try and help minimise that curve as well. A really good way of doing it is just a simple sit-up where we have our hands on our head. We're not trying to throw our body up because then we're using our whole body to do the sit-up. We want to make sure that we're just taking it nice and easy and working just on the spine for a nice lumbar flexion. So if you count yourself 3 seconds up, hands on your head, don't grasp on your head, coming up, holding for 2 seconds, coming down for 2 seconds, and repeating. Try and aim for about 12 to 15 repetitions and 3 sets through. So the last one we're going to do is the child's pose. And I've got my colleague Abby here that's going to show us how to do it. So basically you want to get into that kneeling posture there with your bottom down next to your heels. And then you're going to stretch out with your hands, coming right down. And then you imagine you're trying to push your bottom down towards your heels and you're really working on this flexion of the lumbar spine. Because we've got that excessive posture, these muscles can get quite tight and shortened. And this is a really, really good way of actually keeping them nice and long and trying to improve your flexibility through there. Aim for about 60 seconds and knock out 3 sets every time you do it.